Hello everyone, welcome to my YouTube channel, The English Globe. I hope you all are doing great today. Thank you so much for joining us in this new episode of our English learning podcast. My name is Adam, and as always, I'm here with my good friend Julia. In this podcast, we talk slowly, clearly, and we use easy words so that English learners, especially beginners like you, can enjoy listening, learn new vocabulary, and also practice understanding real English conversations. We are very happy that you are here with us. Today, we have a very interesting topic to talk about. It is something that almost everyone in the world knows about. It is something you probably use every day, or at least have heard of. Yes, we are talking about Facebook. And not just Facebook, we are also talking about the man behind Facebook, the young man who created it and became one of the most famous people in the world. His name is Mark Zuckerberg. Today's podcast is all about the rise of Mark Zuckerberg and the creation of Facebook.
Hi everyone. I'm so happy to be here with you again. Thank you, Adam, for that nice introduction. Yes, this is going to be a great episode because Facebook is something that has changed the world. It changed the way people connect with each other. It changed the way we share photos, videos, ideas, and news. And it all started from a very simple idea. Just one person with a dream, a computer, and a little room in a university. Today we want to tell you that story step by step in easy English, so you can enjoy listening, understand the story, and also improve your English while learning about something very real and important in today's world. We will talk about Mark's early life, how he started programming, how he created Facebook, how the company grew so fast, and what we can all learn from his journey.
That's right, Julia. Sometimes when we hear about successful people, we think they are so different from us. We think they are lucky, or special, or that they have something we don't have. But the truth is, many of them started just like you and me. Mark Zuckerberg started learning how to code when he was a child. He made small computer programs just for fun. He kept learning and trying new things. He made mistakes, but he also never stopped working. One day, that small interest became a big idea. And that big idea became Facebook, one of the biggest and most powerful companies in the world. That's why his story is not only interesting, it's also inspiring. You can learn many things from it, and you can also learn a lot of English today while listening to this story.
Exactly. And what's also great is that this podcast is not just about listening. We also help you learn new words, practice how to say them, and understand how to use them in real life. For example, when we talk about Facebook today, you will hear words like create, connect, network, technology, idea, and many others. These are useful words that you can use in your daily conversations. So, while you're listening, we invite you to relax, take your time, and maybe even take notes if you want. Don't worry if you don't understand everything the first time. You can always listen again. That's the beauty of learning. You get better every day, step by step.
Yes, step by step is the best way. And one thing we always say on the English Globe is this: learning English is a journey, not a race. So even if you are just a beginner, or you are still learning basic words, you are doing great just by listening and practicing. You are taking action, you are trying, and that is what really matters. So, today, let's enjoy the journey together. We will tell the story of Mark Zuckerberg in a way that's simple, slow, and easy to follow. You don't need to worry about difficult grammar or fast speech. We are here to help you, and we are so proud of you for being here.
Before we begin the story, we also want to remind you to subscribe to this channel, The English Globe, if you haven't already. That way, you won't miss any of our new podcast episodes. We post many great stories, lessons, and conversations to help you improve your English every week. And if you enjoyed today's episode, please give it a like, leave a comment, and tell us what you learned or liked the most. It helps our community grow and helps more English learners like you find this podcast. So thank you so much for your support.
All right, friends, let's begin this exciting journey together. Let's go back in time to meet a young boy who was curious, smart, and full of ideas. Let's discover how he became the man who changed the way we connect online. Let's learn about Mark Zuckerberg and how he built Facebook, step by step. Are you ready, Julia?
Yes, I'm ready, Adam. And I hope our listeners are ready too. Let's begin with Mark Zuckerberg's early life, where he was born, what kind of child he was, and how his interest in computers started. This is going to be fun and full of useful English. So let's begin.
All right, let's begin our story. Let's go back to the beginning, to the early years of Mark Zuckerberg's life. Before Facebook, before Harvard, before he became a billionaire, Mark was just a little boy like any other. He was born on May 14th, 1984, in a small town called White Plains in the state of New York, in the United States of America. He grew up in a nearby village called Dobbs Ferry. It's a quiet and peaceful place where many families live. Mark's family was not poor, and they were not very rich either. They were a normal, happy family. His father's name is Edward Zuckerberg. He is a dentist, which means he helps people take care of their teeth. His mother's name is Karen. She worked as a psychiatrist, a doctor who helps people with their emotions and feelings. So, you can see, Mark grew up in a home where education was important. His parents were smart and caring, and they wanted their children to learn and grow.
That's right, Adam. And Mark was not the only child in the family. He had 3 sisters, and he was the only boy. His sisters' names are Randy, Donna, and Ariel. They were all very close as a family. Mark was a quiet and curious child. From a young age, he was interested in many things, but one thing he loved the most was computers. When he was just 12 years old, his father gave him a computer, and Mark started learning how to use it. He didn't just play games, he wanted to understand how the computer worked. He wanted to learn how to create things on the computer. So he started learning computer programming, which means writing code to make software, websites, or games.
Yes, and that was the beginning of something special. At age 12, while many kids were playing outside or watching TV, Mark was already creating a messaging program. It was a simple system that allowed people in the house, like his father in the dental office and the family in the house, to send messages to each other. He called it ZuckNet. Can you believe that? A 12-year-old boy building a messaging system from scratch. His father even used ZuckNet in his dental office to communicate with the receptionist. This shows how creative and intelligent Mark was, even as a child. But even more important, it shows that he liked to solve problems. He liked to make life easier for people by using technology. That is something we will see again and again in his story.
And what's interesting is that Mark did not learn programming from school. He learned it mostly by himself. He read books, he searched online, he tried things and made mistakes. And he kept trying. This is something that English learners like you can learn from. You don't always need to be perfect. You don't need to wait for the best teacher. If you are curious and if you practice every day, you can learn new skills on your own. Mark also had help from a private tutor. His parents hired a computer teacher to give him extra lessons every week. And even the teacher was surprised. He said that Mark learned so fast, he was sometimes difficult to keep up with. So yes, Mark was smart, but he was also very focused. He spent a lot of time working on his computer projects and getting better every day.
And while he loved computers, Mark was also a good student in other subjects. He was good at math, science, and even classical languages like Latin. He went to Ardsley High School first, and then later he transferred to a very famous and private school called Phillips Exeter Academy. It's one of the top schools in the U.S., where many smart and successful people have studied. At Exeter, Mark continued to do well in all his classes, but he never stopped working on programming. He even made small video games for fun. One of his classmates said that if you gave Mark an idea for a game, he could build it in just a few hours.
That's incredible, Adam. And it shows us that passion is very powerful. When you really love something, like computers, or music, or even learning English, you will find time to do it. You will enjoy learning, and you will improve faster. Mark didn't learn coding just to get good grades. He learned it because he loved it. And that's one reason why he became so successful. He also entered computer competitions. He won prizes. People started to notice him. Even big companies like Microsoft and AOL were interested in him when he was still a teenager. They offered him jobs and wanted to buy his projects. But Mark decided to continue his studies instead of working full-time. That's when he got accepted to Harvard University, one of the most famous universities in the world.
Yes, and getting into Harvard is not easy. Only very few students are accepted every year. Mark joined Harvard in 2002. He chose to study psychology and computer science, a very interesting combination. Psychology is the study of the human mind and behavior, and computer science is the study of how computers work and how to write programs. So Mark was already thinking about both people and technology. Maybe that's why later, when he created Facebook, it was such a smart idea. It connected people through technology. But before we get to that part of the story, we must understand this. Mark's love for learning, his curiosity, and his hard work all started many years before Facebook. Facebook did not come from luck. It came from many small steps, many small projects, and many hours of quiet learning in front of a computer.
That's so true. And it's something that can inspire all of us. If you want to become good at something, whether it's programming, business, or speaking English, you don't have to wait for a perfect moment. You can start today. Start small. Keep learning. Practice every day. That's what Mark did. And now, he is one of the most successful people in the world. Not because he had superpowers, but because he started early, stayed focused, and didn't give up. So now that we've learned about his childhood, his family, his love for computers, and his time in school, I think we are ready to talk about the next chapter of his journey, his life at Harvard, and how he came up with the idea that would change the world.
Yes, let's do that. In the next part, we'll go into the time when Mark was a university student at Harvard and how he created something called FaceMash, which was his first big experiment in social networking. Then we'll see how that idea led to something much bigger, Facebook. Are you ready, Julia?
I'm ready. And I hope our listeners are ready too. This next part is going to be very exciting. So stay with us, keep listening, and let's continue our English learning journey together.
Welcome back, everyone. We hope you're enjoying the podcast so far. We've already talked about Mark Zuckerberg's early life, how he was born in New York, how he started using computers at a young age, and how he became very good at programming. Now, we're going to move forward in his life. Let's go to the year 2002 when Mark was 18 years old and just starting his university life at Harvard University, one of the most famous and respected universities in the world. Going to Harvard is a dream for many students, and for Mark, it was a big step in his journey. At Harvard, he lived in a dorm room with other students. A dorm is a place where students live while they study. It's like a big house or building with many small rooms. This is where he would spend many hours working, thinking, and building the first version of Facebook.
Yes, Adam. And even though Harvard was full of smart students, Mark was already different from many of them. He didn't just study for exams or read books. He liked to create things. He liked to build programs and test new ideas. He continued to study psychology and computer science, which are two very different but interesting subjects. Psychology helped him understand how people think and feel, and computer science gave him the tools to build systems on a computer. These two subjects were very useful when he started thinking about ways to connect people online. It's important to remember that this was the early 2000s. Social media platforms like Instagram, WhatsApp, or TikTok did not exist yet. Even Facebook did not exist. People used email or simple websites, but there was no easy and fun way to connect with friends or classmates online.
And this is where Mark saw an opportunity. But before Facebook, there was something else. A smaller project that Mark created while he was at Harvard. It was called FaceMash. Let me explain what that was. FaceMash was a website Mark created just for fun. On this website, students could see photos of other students from the university. The website would show two photos side by side, and you could click to choose who you thought was more attractive. The idea was simple, but it was also a little bit controversial. Mark got the photos from the university's student directories, which are lists with students' names and pictures. He used his coding skills to collect the pictures and build the website.
That's right. And FaceMash became popular very quickly. In just a few hours, hundreds of students visited the site and started clicking on the photos. People were curious, and many of them shared the link with others. But soon, there was a problem. Some students were not happy that their pictures were used without permission, and some university leaders were also upset. They said it was not okay to use private photos like that. So, after just a couple of days, Harvard shut down the website. Mark had to apologize, and there were some discussions about whether he broke any rules. But even though FaceMash was taken down, something important happened. It showed Mark that people really wanted to interact online. People liked to click, rate, and see others. This gave him a big idea.
Yes, and this is the key moment in the story. Mark realized that students at Harvard, and maybe students everywhere, wanted a better way to connect with each other online. They wanted a place where they could share who they were, what they liked, who their friends were, and what they were doing. There was no easy way to do that at the time. So Mark started thinking, what if there was a website just for students, where they could make a personal profile, share pictures, write what they were interested in, and see profiles of other students? What if this website was only for Harvard students at first, so it felt safe and private? He began working on this idea right away from his small dorm room using his own computer.
And this is how Facebook started. At first, it was called the Facebook.com, with the word "the" in the name. Mark chose this name because Harvard already had small printed books with student photos and names. These books were called Facebooks, and they helped students know who their classmates were. But there was no online version. So Mark thought, why not make a digital version that is faster, easier, and more fun to use? He began coding the site day and night. He worked very hard, and soon he had a working version of the website. He showed it to some of his friends, and they liked it. They helped him test it and gave him ideas to make it better.
Mark didn't work alone. He had a few close friends who helped him. One of them was Eduardo Saverin, who became one of the co-founders of Facebook. Eduardo helped with the business side, like money and planning. Other friends who helped in the early days were Dustin Moskovitz, Andrew McCollum, and Chris Hughes. Together they worked as a small team, building something they hoped other students would enjoy. In February 2004, they launched the website just for Harvard students. And guess what? It became popular almost instantly. Hundreds of students signed up in the first few days. Everyone was talking about it. People liked the idea of creating a profile, sharing their interests, and connecting with friends online.
And very soon, students from other universities wanted to join too. First, students from Yale, Stanford, and Columbia, other top universities, got access to the site. Then more and more schools joined. Mark and his team saw that this could be much bigger than just a Harvard website. They decided to grow it into a real company. They moved to California, where many tech companies are based, and started working on Facebook full-time. They dropped the word "the" from the name, and it became simply Facebook. This was the beginning of something that would soon change the way millions, and later billions, of people use the internet.
That's amazing, Julia. And I think this part of the story shows us something important. Mark Zuckerberg didn't wait for someone to give him permission to build something. He had an idea. He saw a need. He used the skills he had, and he worked hard to create a solution. This is something that all of us can learn from. If you have an idea, if you see a problem that you can fix, and if you believe in your idea, you can start working on it, no matter how small it is. You don't need to be rich or famous or have a big team. You just need to begin. That's what Mark did.
Exactly. And you, our listeners, can do the same in your own lives. Whether you want to become a programmer, a business person, a teacher, or even if you just want to speak English better, you can start today. You don't have to wait. Use what you have, practice a little every day, ask for help when you need it, and never stop learning. Mark's story is not just about Facebook, it's about passion, learning, and believing in yourself.
So now that we've seen how Mark came up with the idea and launched Facebook at Harvard, in the next section, we'll talk about how Facebook grew into a global company, how it got its first big investments, and how it became one of the most powerful companies in the world. Are you ready, Julia?
I'm excited, Adam, and I hope our listeners are too. There's so much more to learn, not just about Facebook, but also about new English words, ideas, and lessons that we can use in real life. So stay with us, and let's continue this amazing journey together.
All right, dear listeners, you've been with us on this amazing journey so far. We talked about Mark Zuckerberg's early life, how he started programming, his time at Harvard, and the moment he created the first version of Facebook. Now, it's time to explore what happened next. How Facebook went from being just a small website for college students to one of the biggest and most powerful companies in the entire world.
Yes, Adam. This part of the story is very exciting. After Mark and his friends launched the Facebook website at Harvard in 2004, the response was incredible. Students really loved it. Within just a few weeks, thousands of students signed up. Everyone wanted to create a profile, add their friends, and write on each other's walls. It became the cool new thing on campus. Soon, Mark and his team opened Facebook to students at other top universities like Yale and Stanford. The growth was fast, faster than anyone expected. It was clear that students were looking for a fun and easy way to connect with each other online.
That's right, Julia. And because of that growth, Mark knew he needed to take the project more seriously. It couldn't just be a small student project anymore. It had the potential to become a real company. So, during the summer of 2004, Mark and a few of his close friends moved to Palo Alto, California, which is in Silicon Valley. Silicon Valley is the place where many technology companies are started. It's a hub for innovation, and it's where companies like Apple, Google, and Microsoft have offices. Moving there was a big decision, but it was the right one.
Exactly. In Palo Alto, Mark rented a small house with his team. They lived and worked in the same place. They spent long hours coding, planning, and trying to make Facebook better every single day. Sometimes they worked late into the night. They didn't have much money at first, but they had a big dream. And then something amazing happened. They got their first investor. A man named Peter Thiel, who was one of the co-founders of PayPal, saw the potential in Facebook and gave Mark and his team $500,000 to help grow the company. This was a huge moment. With that money, they could now hire more people, buy better equipment, and make the website faster and stronger.
Yes, Peter Thiel's investment gave Facebook the chance to expand. With the money and support, Facebook quickly started growing. At first, it was only for college students. Then, they opened it to high school students. And finally, in 2006, they made a big change. Facebook was now open to everyone, not just students. If you were at least 13 years old and had an email address, you could create a Facebook account. This changed everything. Suddenly, people from all over the world began to join. Not just students, but adults, workers, teachers, artists, people from every background. Facebook became a global platform for connecting with friends, family, and even strangers.
That's right. And as more people joined, Facebook kept adding new features. They introduced the news feed, where you could see updates from your friends all in one place. They added photo sharing, so you could post pictures of your life. They also created the like button, which became one of the most famous buttons in the world. When people liked your post, it made you feel good. Facebook started to become a part of people's daily life. People checked it in the morning, during work, and before going to bed. For many, it became a place to stay updated, to talk with friends, and to express themselves.
And let's not forget the business side of Facebook. As the user base grew into the millions and then billions, companies began to notice. Businesses started using Facebook to advertise their products and connect with customers. Facebook created tools for businesses to run ads and reach the right people. This became a big part of how Facebook made money. The more users they had, the more valuable the ads became. In just a few years, Facebook went from being a dorm room project to a company worth billions of dollars. It was growing faster than almost any other company in history.
It's amazing to think about how much happened in just a few years. From 2004 to 2012, Facebook kept expanding and improving. Mark Zuckerberg stayed focused and continued leading the company. He was still very young, but he had a clear vision. In 2012, Facebook reached another big moment. It became a public company. That means people could now buy and sell shares of Facebook on the stock market. The company was valued at more than $100 billion. It was one of the biggest public offerings in tech history. Mark Zuckerberg was now one of the youngest billionaires in the world.
Yes, and even after all that success, Mark continued to work hard. He wasn't only thinking about money, he also wanted Facebook to help the world. He talked about his mission to make the world more open and connected. Of course, Facebook also faced some challenges. As more people joined, there were also more problems to manage. People sometimes posted false information, and there were concerns about privacy and data protection. But Mark and his team kept trying to fix these problems and improve the platform.
That's true, Adam. And while we will talk more about those challenges later, it's important to recognize what Facebook achieved in its first 10 years. It changed how people communicate. It helped people stay in touch with friends and family, even across long distances. It gave people a voice to share their thoughts, pictures, and lives. And it started a whole new chapter in the history of the internet. Other platforms like Instagram, WhatsApp, and Messenger also became part of Facebook's family. Today, billions of people use Facebook and its apps every single day.
And all of this started with one young man in a college dorm room who had a simple idea and the courage to build it. That's why this story is so powerful. It's not just a tech story. It's a story about vision, hard work, and believing in what's possible. Mark Zuckerberg's journey can teach us that with focus and effort, one idea can change the world.
Yes, and it can also teach us something about learning English too. Maybe you feel shy, or maybe you feel like your English isn't good enough yet. But just like Mark started small, you can start small too. If you listen every day, practice speaking, and believe in yourself, you will grow. You will improve. And one day, you'll be amazed at how far you've come.
So true, Julia. In our next section, we're going to talk more about Facebook's influence, some of the big challenges it faced, and how it affected the world, politics, and society. We'll also explain more useful English words and phrases that you can use in your daily life.
We're so glad you're with us today. Stay with us, and let's keep learning together, one story at a time. Now that we've talked about Facebook's fast growth and success, it's time to explore the other side of the story. As Facebook became more popular and powerful, many people started to ask important questions. They wanted to know how Facebook was using their personal data and whether the platform was safe. You see, when billions of people use one website to share their thoughts, photos, and private information, it becomes a big responsibility.
That's a good point, Julia. At first, people were just excited to use Facebook. They were happy to connect with friends and family, to post pictures, and to write messages. But later, some people began to feel concerned. They asked, what does Facebook do with our data? For example, when you sign up, you give your name, birthday, and email. You also share your location, your interests, and sometimes even your phone number. All this information is very personal. And some people started to worry that Facebook was not protecting this information carefully enough.
Yes, and one of the biggest problems happened in 2018 when a company called Cambridge Analytica was accused of taking the personal data of millions of Facebook users without permission. This data was then used to create political ads and to influence people's opinions during elections. Many users felt shocked and upset. They didn't know their private information could be used in this way. After that, people started asking Facebook to take more action and be more transparent.
That's right. And because of this scandal, Mark Zuckerberg had to speak in front of the United States Congress. That means he had to answer questions from government leaders. They wanted to know how Facebook collected data, how it was used, and how the company planned to protect its users in the future. It was a serious and difficult moment for Facebook, but it was also an important lesson. It showed that technology companies must follow clear rules, and they must respect the privacy and trust of their users.
It also made people think about the power of social media. Facebook doesn't just connect friends. It also influences public opinion, politics, and even culture. For example, during elections, many political ads are shown on Facebook. These ads can reach millions of people. But if the information in these ads is false or misleading, it can cause confusion or even damage democracy. That's why people started asking for stronger rules and fact-checking to make sure that only correct information is shared.
Another problem was with fake news. Some people used Facebook to spread lies or false stories. These stories looked real, but they were not true. They spread very fast, and many users believed them. This was dangerous, especially during health crises or elections. Facebook had to create special teams to stop fake news and check information. They also worked with fact-checking organizations to label posts that were not true.
Yes, and another big issue was mental health. Some people started feeling sad or anxious after using Facebook. They compared their lives to others, thinking, why is my life not as perfect as theirs? But on Facebook, people often post only the good parts of their lives, not the hard parts. This created pressure and stress, especially among young users. Experts said people should be careful and not spend too many hours online. It's important to take breaks and spend time with real people in real life.
And of course, there were also cyberbullying and online hate. Some users were bullied or attacked with hurtful messages. Facebook had to create new tools to block and report bad behavior. They also started working with mental health organizations to offer support. Still, managing such a huge platform with billions of users is not easy. Even with rules and systems, problems can still happen.
Through all of this, Mark Zuckerberg and his team continued to learn and improve. They made changes to the platform. They added more privacy controls so users could choose who sees their posts. They allowed people to download their data and see what information Facebook had collected. They also gave users more control over their newsfeed. All of these steps were taken to rebuild trust.
That's a good way to describe it. Rebuilding trust. Trust is very important. When people use an app or a website every day, they want to feel safe. They want to know that their information is protected. Facebook had to work hard to show people that it cared about their safety and privacy. And this is not just a lesson for Facebook, it's a lesson for all companies in the digital world.
We can also connect this idea to learning English. Sometimes we face challenges too. Maybe we make mistakes when we speak, or maybe we don't understand everything at first. But that's okay. What's important is that we keep going, keep learning, and keep improving. Just like Facebook had to face its problems and grow stronger, we also grow stronger when we face our learning challenges.
I like that comparison, Julia. Growth is never perfect. Whether it's a company or a language learner, there will always be mistakes and lessons along the way. What matters most is the will to improve and to take responsibility. Mark Zuckerberg faced many difficult situations, but he didn't give up. He stayed focused on the long-term goals.
And now Facebook is part of a larger company called Meta. In 2021, Mark announced that Facebook's parent company would be called Meta, and that the future would include something called the Metaverse. That's a topic we'll talk about soon. But before we get there, let's pause and review some key words and phrases from this part of the podcast.
Great idea. Here are some useful words and phrases from today's conversation. Privacy, the right to keep your personal information safe. Scandal, a situation where something wrong or dishonest becomes public. Data, information collected from users. Influence, to have an effect on people or decisions. Fake news, news that is not true. Cyberbullying, using the internet to hurt or insult someone. Transparency, being open and clear about actions. Trust, the belief that someone or something is honest and safe.
Try to repeat these words out loud. Say them slowly and think of an example for each one. This will help you remember them better. You can also write them down in a notebook and use them in your own sentences.
That's all for this part of the story. Next, we'll talk about Facebook's big transformation into Meta and what that means for the future of technology, social media, and communication. There's still so much to learn, so don't go anywhere. Let's move forward now and talk about the next big step in the Facebook journey. After many years of success and also facing big challenges, Mark Zuckerberg decided to start a new chapter for the company. In October 2021, he made a surprising announcement. He said that Facebook would now be part of a larger company called Meta. That means Facebook is still here, but it is now only one part of a bigger group that includes other apps like Instagram, WhatsApp, and also many new projects. So the new name of the company is Meta, but Facebook as a platform still works just like before.
Yes, and many people asked, why did Mark change the name? The answer is very interesting. Mark said that the company was no longer just a social media company. It had become something much bigger. The team was working on many different technologies, things like virtual reality and augmented reality. These are tools that help people experience the world in a new way, using special glasses or headsets. Mark said that he wanted to help build something called the metaverse. The metaverse is like a virtual world where people can work, play, learn, and connect with others, just like they do in the real world, but all online.
That's right. It's kind of like a video game, but much more real. Imagine that you can sit in your room, wear special glasses, and suddenly it feels like you're in a classroom in another country, or inside a meeting room at a different company, or even walking on a beach with your friend who lives far away. This is the idea of the metaverse. You can be anywhere without leaving your house. You can talk, move, build, and create new things in this digital space.
But the metaverse is still new. It's a big dream, and it will take many years to build. Some people are very excited about it, but others are not sure yet. They ask important questions like, will it be safe? Will it protect our privacy? Will it be good for children and young people? Mark Zuckerberg believes that it will help people learn better, work better, and stay more connected. He said this is the next generation of the internet. Right now we use screens, like our phones and laptops. But in the future, we might use our eyes, hands, and voices in a 3D world.
Let's try to understand this in a simple way. Think about how the internet changed our lives in the last 20 years. At first, we could only send emails and read websites. Then we got social media like Facebook, where we could talk to each other and share photos. Now, with the metaverse, people will be able to feel like they're inside the internet. They will use something called avatars, which are cartoon versions of themselves, to move around and interact with others in this digital world.
And Mark is not doing this alone. Meta is working with many engineers, designers, and developers around the world. They are creating new tools, new apps, and new devices like the Meta Quest headset, which lets people see and hear things in virtual reality. It's like putting on a helmet and suddenly entering a new world. Schools, businesses, and even doctors are starting to use this technology. For example, some schools are trying virtual classrooms where students from different countries can sit together, speak, and learn science or history in 3D. That sounds amazing. But, Julia, it's also important to talk about the cost. These new technologies are not cheap. Not everyone can buy a virtual headset right now. That means there is a gap. Some people can join the metaverse early and others cannot. Mark said that he hopes to make the technology cheaper over time so that more people can use it. He wants to make the metaverse for everyone, not just for rich or tech-savvy people. Yes, and also, not everyone wants to live in a virtual world. Some people feel more comfortable in the real world with face-to-face conversations, real smiles, and natural emotions. That's okay too. The metaverse is not supposed to replace the real world. It is just another tool, like the internet or a smartphone. We should use it wisely, carefully, and only when it helps us grow or connect in a better way.
I really like that point. Technology should help us, not control us. And that's something Mark Zuckerberg talks about a lot. He says that Meta is trying to build technology that brings people together, not separates them. He also talks about values like freedom, creativity, and inclusion, making sure that everyone, no matter where they live or who they are, can be part of the future.
Now, let's stop for a moment and review some new words from this part of the podcast. These are words that will help our listeners understand this topic better. Virtual reality, VR, a computer-made world that you can see and feel using special glasses. Augmented reality, AR, adding digital images or sounds to the real world. Metaverse, a digital space where people can meet, talk, and do activities using avatars. Avatar, a cartoon version of a person used in the digital world. Headset, a device worn on the head to experience VR. Digital, something that is created or shown on a computer or screen. Technology, tools or machines created by humans to solve problems or do new things. Connect, to join or link with someone or something.
That's a great list. Let's also try to use some of these words in simple sentences to help our listeners understand how they are used. I used virtual reality to visit a museum in another country. My phone has an app that uses augmented reality to show stars in the sky. In the metaverse, I can meet my teacher even if we are in different countries. My avatar wears glasses and has brown hair, just like me. The VR headset helped me play a fun game with my friends.
Perfect examples. Now, dear listeners, you can try to make your own sentences too. Say them out loud or write them in your notebook. Practice is the key to learning English. And don't worry if you make mistakes. That's how we learn.
Absolutely. In the next part of our story, we'll talk about what Facebook, or Meta, is doing now in 2025. We'll look at the newest changes, the latest updates, and how the company continues to grow and face new challenges in a fast-changing world.
Adam, we've talked about Mark Zuckerberg's early life, his time at Harvard, how he created Facebook, and how it became one of the biggest companies in the world. We even talked about Meta and the metaverse. But now I think it's a great time to ask one important question. What can we learn from Mark's journey? Because his story is not just about technology or money. It's about ideas, hard work, and making something that changes the world.
That's such a great point, Julia. One of the first lessons we can learn from Mark's story is this. If you have a good idea and you believe in it, don't be afraid to start. Mark was only a student when he began working on Facebook. He didn't wait until he had a lot of experience or money. He just started with a small idea to help students connect online, and he worked very hard to make it better every day.
Yes, and that teaches us that we don't need to wait for the perfect time. Sometimes, we just need to take the first step. Even if we feel nervous or unsure, we can learn as we go. And Mark also worked with a team. He didn't do everything alone. He had friends and partners, like Eduardo Savarine and others, who helped him build the company. So another lesson is, it's okay to ask for help. Working with others can make your ideas stronger.
Exactly. And another very important lesson is about focus and consistency. Mark Zuckerberg stayed focused on his goal. He didn't change his plan every week. He believed that connecting people online was a powerful idea, and he stayed with it for many years. When we look at our own goals, Whether we are learning English, starting a small business, or working on a school project, we should also remember that success takes time. We should keep going, step by step, even when things get hard.
That's so true, Adam. I think a lot of our listeners are English learners, and sometimes they feel tired or frustrated. They might think, I will never speak English fluently, or this is too difficult for me. But remember, Mark also faced problems. He had to deal with mistakes, with criticism, with people who didn't believe in his vision. But he didn't give up. And that's another great lesson. Don't give up when things are hard. Keep trying. Every day we can get a little bit better.
And I would also say, be open to change. Mark started with a simple website for Harvard students. But when he saw that people around the world were interested, he changed his plan. He made Facebook bigger. He added new features. He listened to feedback. This shows us that it's okay to change and improve. So if you're learning English and one method doesn't work for you, try another one. If you like stories, listen to podcasts like this. If you like music, sing English songs. If you enjoy writing, keep a daily journal. The important thing is to keep learning.
Yes, and Mark also teaches us something about courage. He had to make big decisions. For example, when Facebook became a public company, or when it bought Instagram and WhatsApp, or when it started building the metaverse. These were not easy choices, but he took the risk and he trusted his team. So the lesson is, sometimes we need to take smart risks if we want to grow. Not everything is safe or simple, but if we stay careful and thoughtful, we can try new things. I also love how Mark stays curious. Even today, after so much success, he is still learning. He reads books, studies new technology, and talks to experts. That reminds me, successful people never stop learning. So no matter your age, no matter your level, you can always improve. You can always grow. Even if you speak just a few words of English now, one day, if you keep practicing, you will speak with confidence. Let's make a short list for our listeners now. These are 5 simple lessons we can learn from Mark Zuckerberg's story. Start small, but start now. Don't wait for the perfect moment. Just begin. Work with others. Teamwork makes your ideas stronger. Stay focused and don't give up. Success takes time and effort. Be open to change. Learn, adapt, and improve as you go. Never stop learning. Stay curious and keep growing every day.
What a great list, Julia. Dear listeners, if you remember these lessons and use them in your life, I believe you can achieve great things, not just in learning English, but in anything you choose to do. Just like Mark Zuckerberg started in a small room at Harvard, you can start right now, wherever you are. Your journey begins with a single step.
And now, let's review some new vocabulary from this part. We'll say the word, explain what it means in simple English, and give you an example sentence. Consistent. Doing something again and again without stopping. She is consistent in her English practice every day. Feedback, information, or opinions that help you improve. He listened to his teacher's feedback and wrote a better essay. Courage. The ability to do something even if it's scary. It takes courage to speak in front of a big group. Curious. Wanting to know or learn more about something. Children are curious and they always ask many questions. Adapt. To change so you can do better in a new situation. He adapted to life in a new country quickly.
Try saying these words out loud. Repeat them a few times. You can also try writing your own simple sentences using these words. This will help you remember them better.
Yes. And don't forget, learning English is a journey. You're not just learning words, you're learning how to express your thoughts, connect with people, and grow your confidence. Just like Mark Zuckerberg grew his ideas into something amazing, you too can grow your skills little by little.
Julia, after learning about Mark Zuckerberg's journey and the lessons we can take from his story, I think it's important to talk about something very close to all of us. How Facebook changed the way people communicate and connect. Before Facebook, people used phones, emails, or letters to talk. But Facebook made it easier and faster to share our lives with friends and family, no matter where they are in the world.
Yes, Adam, that's a great point. Facebook helped people stay in touch every day. Imagine your family living in another country. Before Facebook, you might have sent letters that took weeks to arrive, or you would pay a lot for phone calls. But with Facebook, you can send messages instantly, share photos and videos, and even make video calls. It brought people closer together, even if they were very far apart.
And it wasn't just about personal connections. Facebook created something new called the news feed. This is where you see updates from your friends, pages you follow, and news from around the world, all in one place. This made it easy to know what is happening with the people and topics you care about. It changed the way we get information and share it too.
Absolutely. Also, Facebook gave many people a chance to express themselves. Users can write posts, share their opinions, celebrate special moments like birthdays or weddings, and even organize events. For many people, this became a new way to tell their story and connect with others who have similar interests or goals.
One of the biggest impacts of Facebook is on businesses and communities. Small companies can now reach customers easily by creating a Facebook page. They can show their products, talk to customers, and grow their business online. This was not easy before. Facebook helped people create new jobs and new opportunities, especially in places where the internet was just starting to grow.
That's right, Adam. But it's also important to understand that Facebook has brought new challenges. Because so many people use it every day, sometimes wrong information can spread quickly. This is called fake news. Facebook has worked hard to find ways to stop false information and keep users safe. But it is still a big problem.
Yes, and Facebook also raised questions about privacy. When we share so much online, it's important to know who can see our information. Mark Zuckerberg and his team have worked on new rules and settings to help users control their privacy, but it is always good for everyone to be careful about what they share.
Exactly. So, dear listeners, the story of Facebook is not just about a website or an app. It's about how technology changes the way we live, learn, work, and connect. It shows us that communication is powerful. When used well, it can bring people together, create opportunities, and make the world feel smaller and more connected.
Before we finish this part, let's review some new words we used here. Newsfeed, a list of updates from friends and pages on Facebook. Express, to share your thoughts or feelings. Opportunity, a chance to do something good or important. Fake news, false or misleading information shared as news. Privacy, keeping personal information safe and private.
Try to use these words in your English practice. For example, I saw a funny video on my newsfeed today. It's important to express your feelings with friends. Learning English gives you many new opportunities. Be careful of fake news on social media. I changed my privacy settings to keep my information safe.
Great examples, Julia. And remember, practice makes perfect. Keep listening, speaking, reading, and writing in English every day. The more you practice, the easier it becomes. Julia, what an amazing journey we have shared today with our listeners. From the early days of Mark Zuckerberg at Harvard to the incredible creation of Facebook and how it changed the world, we've learned so much together. I hope our listeners found this story interesting and helpful for their English learning.
Absolutely, Adam. And for everyone listening, remember that learning English is a journey just like Mark's journey with Facebook. It takes time, patience, and daily effort. Sometimes it feels difficult, but every step you take moves you closer to your goal. You are not alone, and you can do it.
Before we finish, let's quickly review some important ideas from today's podcast. Mark Zuckerberg started Facebook when he was young and didn't wait for the perfect moment to begin. Facebook changed the way people communicate by making it easy to connect with friends and family all over the world. We learned 5 important lessons from Mark's story. Start now, work with others, stay focused, be open to change, and never stop learning. Facebook brought new opportunities for people and businesses, but also challenges like privacy and fake news. And finally, we practiced some new English words like consistent, feedback, courage, curious, adapt, newsfeed, express, opportunity, fake news, and privacy.
If you want, you can listen to this episode again to practice these words and ideas. Repeating helps you remember better. Also, try to speak these sentences out loud and write your own examples. The more you use English, the easier it becomes.
Thank you so much for spending your time with us today on the English Globe. We are proud of each one of you who is working hard to learn English. Keep going, keep practicing, and remember, every small step counts. Your English will improve day by day.
Yes. And don't forget to subscribe to our channel so you won't miss our next episodes with more interesting stories and useful English lessons. If you enjoyed this podcast, please like, share, and leave a comment. We love hearing from you.
We wish you all the best on your English learning journey. Until next time, keep learning, keep smiling, and stay curious. Goodbye, everyone.
Goodbye. See you soon.